Hey guys, Janus here. So it seems like everybody is making Halloween-esque videos for the month of October, and I figured I'd chip one in myself. Today's video is an excerpt from what I've dubbed the Black Files. Now, in order for a piece of information to make it into my Black Files, it has to be useful but also have a propensity to cause harm, and sometimes an unavoidable propensity. About 5 years ago, I studied the effects of blunt force trauma, specifically how it can so powerfully cause traumatic fluid displacement. Say I was struck in the arm by a hand, a fist, blunt object, what have you. At the point of impact, fluid is pushed out of the area, and it's pushed out of the area ahead of and behind that point of impact. Because of this fact, because of how blunt force trauma causes fluid displacement, I place it in a category of trauma above stabbing or even being shot. And the reason for that is because it causes damage well away from the initial point of contact, the initial strike zone. And there have been fighting styles based around blunt force trauma's propensity to cause this dangerous form of fluid displacement. And the fighting style of which I specifically speak about is known as Iron Palm. Iron Palm has its origins in China, but was apparently perfected in Japan. Now, the way the style works is it takes advantage of how water cannot be compressed and how we are made of water. Our whole entire body functions based on the principles of water. And the way Iron Palm specifically truly works is how blood moves through our arterial system. You see, unlike the venous system where there are valves that keeps blood from traveling backwards, there are no such structures in the arterial system. So let's say I was struck here in the meat of my arm. That's a lot of fluid, that's a lot of tissue. If it was struck, say, here and then drugged down, so a glancing blow, what would normally be considered, non-traumatic. The way an Iron Palm master was trained, they would use that glancing blow to quite literally fire blood back into the center of the body and cause massive organ trauma. The way the legend goes, it was impossible to defend against an Iron Palm master. If they could get a hand on your body, even just a hand, they were going to cause massive trauma to your body. There was no question about it. Now, modern derivations of the Iron Palm is, I don't want to say it's so far as street performance, but I feel like it's lost its roots. With an Iron Palm master, what typically happens is their hands become very, very meaty, almost grotesque-like. Their fingers become very thick, their bones become very dense, the palms of their hands look like just big slabs of meat, and it comes from the specific form of training that they engage in involving slapping bean bags, rocks, or other such objects for the purposes of training their hands. Now, you may be wondering, why on earth would I be studying blunt force trauma or Iron Palm? Well, ironically enough, the Angion methods, macropulse, oscillator, displacer, they are all based upon the underlying concepts I discovered while studying blunt force trauma and Iron Palm. You see, blunt force trauma and Iron Palm use fluid displacement to cause harm, but it was my belief that fluid displacement could be used to heal, to facilitate growth. And as many have discovered, it can be used for exactly that. Men literally all over the world are now using the Angion methods to powerfully affect the internal structures of their body, their internal arterial networks, to grow them, and are combating erectile dysfunction as we speak. Others are using the displacer, oscillator, and macropulse to powerfully affect the muscle tissue, specifically the smooth muscle masses that tend to wind themselves around arterial channels. And the reason why I'm sharing all this is that I think that there is good and bad in all things. That information can be used to do harm or to heal. And this is really one of those examples. I'm very happy I got to share a bit of the history behind the Angem methods and many of my principles, disciplines, views, etc. And I hope everybody enjoyed this little facet of information. And in the description to this video, I am including an article if you would like to know more about iron palm, because yes, I know the guys out there, I'd be like, ooh, this is cool. So that's it for this week's video. As always, I'm your host, Janus, signing off.